Alright lads, Coben here. Welcome to my Desolate Host Mythic commentary video where I basically go over talent selection, trinket selection, legendary selection, and basically how I approach this fight as Fury from a progression standpoint. Starting with the easy stuff, trinkets. Convergence of Fates is going to be a first choice because that's obviously your best in slot and you're not holding Battle Cry at all here really, and the timings work out pretty nicely. And the second trinket you're going to be using is Moonglaze if you have it. There's just plenty of cleave potential and it's just your clear winner for second trinket. Legendary selection, we're going to be using the legendary helm and the legendary belt. The reason why I'm using the legendary belt instead of legs or ring is because the entirety of the first phase is essentially ad management, which involves a lot of whirlwinding, and obviously the belt gets a lot of bonus from whirlwinding multiple targets. Talent selection, like I said earlier, there's plenty of ads, so we're going to be going with War Machine for the first row, Double Time, Avatar, Bounding Stride, Frothing Berserker, Inner Rage, and Reckless Abandon. The reason why I've taken Avatar as opposed to Wrecking Ball is because there is some priority damage in first phase, and then the entirety of the second phase there's no ads, so really you're going to lose out quite a lot of single target on Wrecking Ball, and there is a soft Enrage. The same goes for Inner Rage and Bloodbath debate. You need that priority damage from Raging Blow on some of the ads in phase 1, and then of course phase 2 it's almost all single target with a little bit of 2-target cleave, so you want Inner Rage. Okay, so on pull, we're actually going to be pre-potting with a Prolonged Power as you're AoEing right off the bat, and Old War is really a single target pot. So I'm going to be charging in, and instead of bloodthirsting when dropping Moonglaze, I'm going to be whirlwinding, and the reason for that is because you want your Battlecried Rampage to be cleaving. So we're charging in Whirlwind, Moonglaze, Battlecry, Rampage, and then Odin's Fury, and then doing the AoE rotation, trying to hit the residual ads. As Fury, you'll do absolutely bucket loads of damage to them as they've got very little HP, and you'll be getting a large segment of your damage from them in this first phase. I'm going to be targeting the Soul Queen for the majority of this. Obviously, I'm in the Spirit Realm here, which is the one where you've got most of the ads. And generally just performing the AoE rotation, cleaving down the Fallen Princesses and the Bone Wardens. You might see me cycle in a Enraged Raging Blow every now and again, and that's because although this is ad management, there is, I mean, if you've got overall lower raid DPS, you do have to transition this by a certain number of rotations of this phase 1. So 3 rotations of Wailing Souls, and you basically want the Soul Queen to be around 30, well, sub 35%, but higher than 30. So you see here in Wailing Souls, which is about 50 seconds, and Battlecry and Odin's Fury are off cooldown. And although there's no ads, I'm going to be using it single target because, you know, the cooldown on Odin's Fury is 45 seconds, Battlecry is about 30 with Convergence, so you know you're going to have them back again for when all the ads spawn after Wailing Souls. So just going through, doing your single target rotation. You'll get most of your DPS here from just mass amounts of AoE in phase 1. So I'm sitting at a pretty steady 1.7 million at the moment, which is quite nice. But you don't want to be sacrificing too much priority damage on the Soul Queen. As I said earlier, you do have to transition it before the 4th Wailing Souls. Otherwise you're very likely to hit the enrage time in the last phase. So the ads are spawning. I'm going to Whirlwind again, dropping glaives, and then making sure that the first Rampage after the Battlecry is a cleaving one. That's why you do the prior Whirlwind to get meat cleaver buff. And I'm putting my Moonglaves. I think although my Moonglaves have missed the Soul Queen there, I'm trying to place them in a position where they're going to be hitting the Fallen Princesses and the residual ads, because the residual ads do a lot of, they're a pain for the range if they start kiting them and no one's finishing them off. As you see, they've got the Soulbind as well, using Leap to get out to the Soulbind as soon as possible and just charging back in. It's dead easy to drop as Fury. You'll see I'm not moving out when I get targeted with the Soul Screech, I think it's called, Shattering Scream even. And that's because I'm keeping an eye on the Bone Cage armor count at the bottom right hand corner with DBM. And if there's no bone armors up, there's no need to move out to the corporeal side with that buff. Again, just AoEing down the ads, whirlwinding, bloodthirst to try and maintain enrage. And what you might see me do occasionally is, if I'm close to capping rage and I have the meat cleaver buff but there are ads up but I'm enraged, I'm actually going to Raging Blow instead of bloodthirst to bump myself up to 100 rage so I don't consume the meat cleaver buff with a bloodthirst. So I'm going to try and prioritize Rampage over bloodthirst in that regard because it does more damage. Again, just a single target, trying to pump out something. This is why I've taken Inner Rage, because moments like this, Bloodbath is just going to be absolute garbage, and Wrecking Ball is going to be pretty pants on single target in the final phase. I've held Battlecry there. I could have rolled the dice and used it. I think there was about 25 seconds left till this phase is over, but the trade-off, if you don't get it back for when the ads spawn, is really, I don't think it's a favourable trade-off. It's not a good risk. So just getting ready for the ads coming in again, making sure I've dumped all my rage as best I can. And then drop in my Moonglaves, Whirlwind to get Meat Cleaver, Battlecry, Rampage, Odin's Fury, and then just Whirlwinding. Trying to hit one of the princesses which isn't being gripped out, because they're not going to move around too much. I think I'll mess up here and get hit by quite a few explosions at once, yeah. And the Shattering Scream, which is quite lucky I survived there. But, you know. Again, just getting that kind of 2 to 3 target cleave going with the ads. With Battlecry, I'm generally going to be using it on cooldown, unless if there's about 10 seconds left on Odin's Fury and there's, you know, loads of bone armor ads to come in, I'm going to hold for about 3 to 4 seconds until Odin's Fury's got, say, 6 seconds left on cooldown, because the duration of Battlecry is 7 seconds. I know if I'm going to use it, I'm going to have Odin's Fury back for the end and get that initial damage. Maybe not some of the ticking damage, but it means I don't have to delay Odin's Fury too long. I've used Battlecry early there, and Odin's Fury wasn't off cooldown, but it's not the end of the world, because it will be back for when the ads are almost dead. I'm not going to get as much cleave because some of the ads would have died, but they're still going to be, I think, 2 or 3 up by the time it's come off CD, so it's not too bad. And really, with the amount of ads here, you can't really go too wrong with just hitting that Battlecry every time, and even if you haven't got Odin's Fury, then getting good Whirlwinds and Raging Blows off. So we're coming up to 35% here, which means we're going to transition soon. So just getting some single target on the Blood Queen, keeping that Fallen Princess alive, because we needed to break the bone armors on the opposite side. We actually try and hold DPS here a little bit to ensure that we get the bone armors on our side and kill them off, and then the other side just has the Queen to deal with. And I'm going to hold cooldowns here as well, because at the moment there's no DPS race. In fact, I don't think I hold all more cooldowns. I do something really stupid here, which I shouldn't have done. I actually Odin's Fury there for some reason. Oh no, I've Battlecried as well, so it's not too bad actually, yeah. So I've saved Avatar and Glaives, although you'd probably get more overall damage from just using new cooldowns there. This was the last pull of the night, and I wanted to make sure that I had both Glaives and Avatar back for the final phase, which is where the DPS kind of race, if you like, begins. And I know that we can finish these ads off before we get into the next phase. So we've been asked on this kill to actually prioritize the Desolate Host damage instead of on the Soul Queen. So I'm waiting for the boss to come over, dropping my Glaives and my AoE and my Avatar Battlecry and getting some cleave damage off. And I've really messed up with my old wall pot there, because it's moved off my keybinds. I've had to try and click it, and I've just completely missed it, and that's just really crap. So I've lost out on quite a bit of damage there. Yeah, so like I say, we are trying to single target the Desolate Host down, so you'll see me following that instead of sitting on the Soul Queen. So as it's on our side, I'm going to be cleaving onto the Soul Queen as best as possible, and then following the Desolate Host across, trying to avoid the shit on the floor from the ads that nobody cares about. And then I'm going to be using the Soul Queen as my charge target, so I'm saving Leap, so I'm just going to be charging out onto the ad, get a bit of extra rage, get some executes going. As it happens, us as a raid trying to single target Desolate Host down hasn't worked out any differently to when we just focused the Soul Queen down, so what I should be doing really here is just building Juggernaut stacks on the Soul Queen, sub 20%, and then switching to the Desolate Host when that's dead. But I've been just on the Desolate Host, so there's quite a big loss of damage there. On one of our tries, I think you can actually get good Juggernaut stacks on the Soul Queen and then transition onto the boss, and he's already sub 20%, and you can keep them rolling, which is really good, but I've not managed to get that here, which is a bit of a shame and quite a lot of damage. I think I've lost nearly kind of 150, 200k overall damage from phase 1 to phase 2, but I'm sure you guys can do better. So we're just coming up to 10% here. Again, I'm using, now that the Soul Queen's gone, I'm going to be using Leap to jump out of the AoE trying to get as much damage uptime as possible. And I've kind of got a funny range issue going on here. I thought I could run out and charge, but I couldn't. Get knocked back, and I've got to run out, and I've got Battle Cry and Juggernaut stacks and Trinket available, and he dies. So the phase 2 wasn't too good. Phase 1's really good. It's just mainly lining up your cooldowns so when all the ads spawn. Make sure you get a big Odin's Fury Enclaves with Avatar off. You want to be saving Avatar when Wailing Souls is happening. I've tried it. You can't get Avatar back if you pop it early Wailing Souls, unless you get Godlike Champion, Odin's Champion procs, but you can't really rely on that. And then phase 2, I'd say your best bet. I think next week on farm, I will probably just be training the Soul Queen, not bother chasing Desolate Host, get an execute Juggernaut stacks on that, and then switching to Desolate Host once that's dead. And I should, on the pull where I managed to actually transfer stacks, I transferred at about 35 stacks. That's some really good damage. You can just keep rolling over. That's the kill. So yeah, hopefully that was of use. You can see why I haven't got Wrecking Ball, because in the final phase it's just kind of crappy. You really want that Avatar for the single boss damage. I messed up my old War Pot in the second phase, which is a shame, and the last phase kind of DPS wasn't as efficient as it could be. Loads of lost uptime and potential Juggernaut stacks lost. I messed up my old War Pot. The reason why I'm not second potting in the first phase is because largely their ads are under control. Once your red gets the hang of it, and they don't become an issue. So a pot in the second phase, although it might net you more damage, it's not really going to help you get the kill, at least for our red anyway. Anyway, thanks for watching. You can catch me on my stream on Coburn_25 if you've got any questions, or drop them in the comments. But until the next one, cheers. See ya.